Hey, I am so excited about today's show. We get to meet and speak with Alison Blah. Did I get that right, Alison? Or did I
Yes, you
destroy
did. You got that right.
it? um, and Alison, how long have you been in the health and wellness business?
Yes, I've been in the health and wellness industry or business for over 30 years.
Oh, wow. And it's interesting because I saw that some of the things that you're working in and working on have to do with menopause, and there are different types of menopause. And can you give me kind of a little bit of a background on the different types of menopause, and how do you address them, or what do you do differently for each
Mm.
stage, or is it a stage of menopause?
Yeah, it's a great question, Max. It's because not a lot of people truly understand there's it's a transition. I think that's probably the best way to explain it. Because what happens is we've got three stages. We have perimenopause, menopause, and then postmenopause. So perimenopause is the beginning. This is really where things start to become a bit unbalanced. And on average, obviously this is very individual, but it starts in women around the age of 45. But it can be early, it can be later. So perimenopause is when your hormones just start to kind of become unbalanced. It's a bit like a roller coaster. Sometimes your estrogen can be very dominant and your progesterone can be low. Certain months, everything's all over the place. And because of this is when you can start to experience menopausal symptoms. So it's very common. These symptoms kind of just creep up on you. When you're in your mid 40s, it's a time in a woman's life where there's a lot of things going on anyway. You can maybe have parents that are slightly older that need looking after. You've got teenagers at home. You've got a career. So these menopausal symptoms that just creep in, you don't necessarily always associate them with perimenopause. You just kind of think, oh, I'm stressed, I'm tired, it's
Interesting.
life. But fatigue is a big thing that happens in perimenopause. Hot flashes, that's kind of the classic, isn't it, that we hear about with menopausal women. Weight gain, the typical weight around the stomach area, like belly fat, as we call it. Irritability, mood change, anxiety. It really can affect our cognitive well-being as well, because we need estrogen and we need progesterone and testosterone, which gradually declines through a woman's life as well. But we need those hormones for our overall health. So perimenopause is kind of where things become unbalanced, and this
Okay.
is the beginning of menopause, and
Now,
this can go on for
Allison,
many years.
do women usually know that it's happening, or is there something that their families or significant others can do to support them during this transition? Or
Yeah,
maybe we notice it first?
it's difficult because you don't a lot of women don't ever think that they're in perimenopause. They put their symptoms down to life in general. Oh, I'm stressed, I'm working too much, I've got a lot going on. That's why I'm tired. That's why I'm irritable. That's why I'm moody. But if you really knowledge is power, isn't it? When you understand that this is going to happen to you as you get older as a woman, if you think, oh, hold on a minute, I'm actually being quite moody, or I'm being quite irritable, and brain fog, not being able to remember things, that like hazy feeling. So family members might start thinking, what's the matter? Why is mum, for example, behaving the way she is? But it's knowing that, isn't it? And knowing that it's related to perimenopause, because a lot of the time when women go and see a healthcare professional, and the healthcare professional will say, hold on a minute, this could be perimenopause. And the woman will say, no, 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 I'm far too young. I can't possibly be in menopause. So it's a difficult one because it creeps up on you. But I think the most important thing is to be aware of the symptoms. I mean, hot flashes that's your classic symptom. So if you're starting to get those, that really is a sign that you are having, your hormones are becoming, they will decline over years, and that leads to many different symptoms and health outcomes. But perimenopause is that phase. It's kind of the transition into menopause, and what menopause is really is when you haven't had menstruation. So when you haven't ovulated for a year, you are then in menopause. And so when we think of menopause is actually really only one day. It's the day after you haven't had a period consecutively for a year. You are then in menopause. I mean, meno means menstruation, pause is the stopping of. And then all the time after that, you're in what we call post-menopause. So that is where your hormone levels, you're not ovulating anymore. So estrogen and progesterone are very low. Your body still produces a very small amount via your adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys, but you have very low levels of hormones. If, of course, you can take hormone replacement therapy if that's something that you want to do. But and post-menopause is the rest of a woman's life. I mean, we're living much longer. It'll be 30 plus years.
Alice, how have you seen menopause, perimenopause, and postmenopause, and of course menopause, impact a woman's ability to exercise and continue their exercise regimen and get really good results?
Yeah, it's really interesting question, Max, because what you find, and I mean, I'm in perimenopause, and I can really relate to this myself. That I'm very active, a runner, all of that. I just can't. I don't have the energy to go running long distance that I had before. And when you really look at the biochemistry and the science behind it, it's the effect that estrogen, or the lack of estrogen, has on the mitochondria, which is your energy powerhouse in your cells. And it also it has a huge effect on our metabolism, our energy levels. So what happens when women come into this phase? You need to look at exercise in a different way. You need to maybe not do that like super high intensity all the time. Doing more things like yoga, walking, still getting your heart rate up with certain exercises, but not really doing that like full on, because you just can't do it. And it can cause a stress response, which then can like escalate into many other things. So women need to reassess their exercise regimes when they come into menopause.
Oh, so hey, if you've been doing CrossFit prior to menopause, uh, maybe he's back on that. Is I think what I'm hearing, possibly.
Yeah, and I think naturally, I mean, obviously this is very individual, and I'm sure there's many women out there that carry on with it, but you will notice a change. You'll notice that you won't have that same amount of energy. And rather than just trying to fight that, what I would recommend is say, okay, I'm going to find some other form of exercise to do that suits my body more at this phase of life. Because we change, don't we? I mean, the way that we work out, the
Absolutely.
exercise that we do, we have to adapt.
I see that with men as well. I'm 58 now, so I have totally changed of the exercises that I like to do when I was in my 40s. Now that I'm in my late 50s, my body responds really differently.
Yeah.
My energy level is very different, and I think I rely more on habits that I've created to sustain me, because if I didn't have some of the wellness habits that I've adopted, I don't know if I would have the wherewithal to continue to be as motivated and consistent with exercise.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great point. I think, we have to. There's many different phases to life, aren't there? And this is just a part of life. It's a natural phase a woman will go through, and it's really, rather than fighting it, just thinking, okay, well, this is how I am now. I'm going to maybe do different forms of exercises, and you really have to just look after yourself a bit better when you get older as a woman, and accept that this is happening and have the knowledge. And I think once you understand why, estrogen and progesterone and testosterone are so important for a woman, and we tend to think of them as sex hormones, don't we? Which they are, but estrogen and, well, all of them are so important for other bodily processes. I mean, bone health, heart health, cognitive health. It they're needed. We have estrogen receptors all over the body. They affect every single system.
They definitely do. Um, what has helped? Do you have any recommendations to actually help women that are going through menopause? Is there something they can do with exercise? Well, you mentioned with exercise, maybe look for not as much impact or something like yoga or maybe Pilates. But when it comes to nutrition, do you have thoughts about that? Or even sleep? Do you have thoughts about that?
Yeah, sleep. I mean, that's a huge one, isn't it? And that again is an area that can really be affected during perimenopause and menopause, because it's, again, we need estrogen for it helps in the production of melatonin, but what you can find is that women suffer from night sweats, which obviously keeps you awake. So sleep it can be a really big problem for women in menopause, and it escalates, doesn't it? If we're not sleeping, we just feel terrible, and you feel tired, you feel irritable, you crave carbohydrates, sugary carbohydrates, because your body needs quick energy, and then that escalates into weight gain. So sleep is a really big thing, and it's I mean, you could do a whole podcast on sleep, couldn't you? The things that you need to think about, not doing stimulating things before you go to bed. Not looking on your phone and surfing social media, not watching telly, doing something calming before you go to sleep,
I noticed,
not eating
Allison,
stimulants.
I noticed that when you were describing a lot of the symptoms of menopause and perimenopause, they sounded a lot like the symptoms you were describing when you were describing lack of sleep. The uh, you went in out on me. Did you mean they sound very similar to the lack of sleep things that you were like irritability, um no energy, those also sound like traits that someone might have if they were sleep deprived as well. Is that your read on it?
Yeah, absolutely. It really is. I mean, there's quite a similarity there, isn't there, between lack of sleep and menopausal symptoms? Absolutely. And sleep is just so crucial for everything. And it's not just, life's no fun, is it, if you're tired all the time? So I think really if you can sleep well, 7 to 8 hours, that makes a huge difference in how you feel. Really does. Just even trying to go to bed 20 minutes earlier, you really have to prioritize sleep. Um, and there's many things that you can do as a menopausal woman to really try and help with night sweats. And if you wake up at 2, 3 in the morning, and then you have this, like, your brain starts thinking about everything that you should be doing, and breathing techniques can really help that. So there are quite a few different things that you can try to help with sleep. Again, it's quite individual, but I think the key is to ask for help, ask for support in that area.
Where do you find is the best place to find that support? Is it traditional healthcare, or is it something else or another place that people can find that support to get through menopause?
I mean, in my part of the world, I'm in Europe. There's a lot of I think you know I think doctors are fantastic. So this isn't. I'm not saying anything against them, but they don't really have time, do they, to go into more what we call lifestyle medicine when people go and see them. So looking at more like holistic practitioners, like I mean, like myself as a nutritional therapist, I work with lifestyle medicine and the functional medicine model. So holistic practitioners, nutritional therapists, um, you know, all of those people have the knowledge of techniques to help people sleep. I mean, obviously, if you're really suffering, then I would always talk to your healthcare, your doctor first. But there are, there's the holistic practitioner as well that can look at other areas that can help rather than just having to take sleeping tablets.
That have a whole host of side effects.
Mm.
Um, Most of the sleeping tablets that are available. Um,
Yeah.
so about nutrition, can you give us more about nutrition and how nutrition is helpful when it comes to reducing some of the symptoms of menopause?
Yeah, nutrition is a huge piece, really. When you think of the health and wellness of menopausal women, it's a bit like a jigsaw. You've got to have the lifestyle, the nutrition, and then the mindset piece, and then maybe hormone replacement therapy if that is the route you want to go. But when it comes to nutrition, sugar, we all know, don't we, that sugar, processed, highly refined foods are not beneficial for health. And when we look at menopause, when we look at research, it's shown in research if you have a high sugar diet with all these processed foods, it, it makes your symptoms worse. It's been shown with, especially with like hot flashes and irritability, if you're eating these foods that are packaged with many, many different ingredients on that really aren't particularly nutritious for us in general, they can make menopausal symptoms worse. So one key thing that I would say to menopausal women is reduce. I appreciate it's not easy to stop eating sugar, really, is it, in the food environment that we live in? But to reduce your sugar intake will be very beneficial for you, because another aspect of menopause is that we see that women become less sensitive to insulin. And insulin is a hormone that allows our body to utilize glucose, which is the energy. And because of all the metabolic changes in women as we age and with menopause, our bodies don't react to that hormone the same. So we have an increase in blood sugar levels. And what does that mean? It means fat around the stomach area, and all the many other detrimental health aspects that happen with high blood sugar. If you don't take control of that, that can actually lead to diabetes too. So sugar and processed foods really, really reduce them. The best thing to do is really it doesn't have to be difficult. All you should really do is eat like whole foods, eat the foods that we as human beings were meant to eat.
Okay.
A piece
Can you
of
give us an
broccoli,
example?
yeah, an example. Okay, if we say people that eat meat, you could have like a piece of chicken and a nice fresh salad with greens, with tomatoes, with cucumbers, and maybe some nuts and seeds on it, and then with olive oil, a dressing. It doesn't have
Okay.
to be difficult. It can be really simple. And when we come into menopause, because of all the changes in the insulin, less insulin sensitive, when menopausal women should really, we can eat, absolutely eat carbohydrates, but we should get carbohydrates from whole foods like whole grains that are rich in fiber and vegetables, and reducing our carbohydrate, levels. We don't need to have like half the plate full of carbohydrates. You should have a palm size full of protein, protein like chicken, fish, nuts and seeds, beans, soya, all of those delicious things. And then really, just fill your plate up with salad and vegetables. And
Oh,
then a little bit of carbohydrates, so brown rice, quinoa, all of those things that are high in fiber that digest slowly so they don't cause the peak in blood sugar. That is really, really key for menopausal women. And I mean, nutrition, there's many. I work very individually with my clients, but you can start having digestive issues as you would go into menopause. So, really looking at that as well. Probiotics, gut bacteria, looking after our gut bacteria is really important. The good gut bugs, which again are affected during menopause. So eating things like kimchi, sauerkraut, all the fermented vegetables. So our gut bugs love those. So things like fermented sauerkraut is a great one, and kimchi. You can actually make those at home. Sauerkraut's quite easy to make.
I didn't realize sauerkraut was easy to make
Yeah, I've
for
actually
some
got a
reason.
recipe on my website, Max. You can go and have a look at it. Basically it's just white cabbage and salt, and you kind of like massage the cabbage until you break down all the fibers, and then you put it in a big glass jar, very very tightly, and basically just leave it to ferment. And you just open the lid every day and let out the gas. It can be a bit smelly when you do that, but apart from that, it's fine.
Oh, well, I do love it. I mean, I love sauerkraut. I love kimchi. Um, so now I never thought of making it myself. So this is
It's
actually a
super
really cool
easy.
thing.
Mm.
Allison, for people that are experiencing menopause or perimenopause, even post-menopause, how can they get in touch with you to, I mean, I know you're in Europe now, but do you do any kind of online coaching with people?
Yeah, I do virtually predominantly like 98% of my work now is online. So I work globally. I have clients from all over the world. So the best way really to get in contact with is through my website, which is alisonbladh.com. That's BLADH, Bladh. And on there you've got I've got resources page where there's lots of wonderful free downloads, ebooks, recipe books for menopausal women. I've got I'm virtually on all social media platforms, so you can find all the links to that there. That's really the best place to get in touch with me. And what I like to do with clients initially is, if I do a free call with clients if they want to, so I can have a chat and tell them how I work and tell them how that I can help them. But all the details are on my website.
I apologize. I have this cold.
It's
I
okay.
believe I'm in the tail end of it. So I want to apologize to everybody listening
Oh,
that
it's fine. I think everybody. I've just been having. I've just got over a cold myself, so don't worry. I think it seems like everybody. It's that time of year, isn't it, when everyone gets a bit
it's
cold
funny. I
and
don't think of it
coffee.
usually because I rarely get them, but this season has really hit me. Oh, excuse me. Oh, this season has really hit me. I just want to thank you for being here, Allison. Is there anything else that we may have missed touching on that's really important for us to touch on before we go?
Yeah, I think one thing which is a huge subject is stress. Just finally, just to say that, because when a woman is menopausal, if you have you're suffering from chronic stress, which a lot of people seem to be these days, it just aggravates and makes everything 100 times worse because of the stress hormones, the stress response. I think you really have to be honest with yourself and sit down and look at your life and think, I feel stressed all the time. I do a stress audit with my clients where we sit down and we look at the areas of their life that are causing the most stress, and we try to find ways that we can reduce that, because stress is so detrimental for health.
It's funny as you say, you mentioned stress. Usually, when I believe, like you do, that it's incredibly detrimental, But when I speak to people normally about it, when I'm doing a type of assessment, few people say they have stress. That first, well, how's your stress? Oh, stress. No, it's nothing. I'm good. And then you start talking to them and you start hearing like, oh my God, they have more stress than they ever really realized once they really start exploring it honestly. Like, well, how are your kids? And, like real simple questions, how are your kids? Things are going well. You finding the food you want, you're sleeping well. And all this stuff starts coming up about their stress. So I don't think we wear our stress on our sleeve, the awareness of how much stress we're enduring, until someone actually takes the time to really not just ask, but to really ask questions that give us the opportunity to really explore it, which I think
Yeah.
sounds like what you're doing.
Yeah, totally agree with you. I think we kind of battle on, don't we? And maybe it's something to do with it. We don't want to admit that we're stressed, or this busy life that everybody has. It's maybe you need someone like me and you to sit down with and say, well, hold on a minute. You don't have any time for yourself, and you are actually not feeling very great. So let's have a look at the stress and see what we can do.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Thank you, Allison, so much. And I really appreciate meeting you. And there's so much to dig into. I mean, menopause in itself, I think for most men, it's like a great mystery. It's like one of the five glorious mysteries. I mean, we know very little about it. Um, we may have experienced some things with it, but we're just so on the periphery of it. We're like kind of clueless. So thank you for giving me the information to help me to be a lot more in tuned and a lot more of a better listener for people that are experiencing menopausal symptoms. So I really appreciate you doing that. So you've doing that for me. So I'm sure you're doing it for all the people that are listening as well.
Oh, thank you. So it's a pleasure talking to you, Max. Thank you. Thank you for having me on your podcast.
I really appreciate you being here. Have a great day. And how can people reach you before we go, Allison? I want to make sure that they have your email address or your social, at least your Instagram.
Yeah, my Instagram is Alison Bladh. So it's at Alison. That's ALISON BLADH. You can get me on Instagram. I'm on TikTok, Facebook. It's not Twitter anymore, is it? X, it's called now, and virtually all social LinkedIn, all social media platforms. If you Alison Bladh, you'll find me on all of them.
Okay. Hey, and remember, Allison is spelled with one L in this case. And be sure to check the show notes because we're going to make sure all of Allison's information is in the show notes just in case you missed it now. Thank you so much for listening. Allison, thank you so much for being here. Once again, you're listening to Your Health Moment. And boy, anything and everything you wanted to know about menopause is with us today, where Allison is so happy and so open with sharing it. Remember, Allison has a book that has great recipes, and I think that you definitely want to be sure and reach out to her if you know someone going through menopause, or if you, in fact, have gone through menopause or in a postmenopausal state, or perimenopause. You might be just at the beginning of it. So definitely reach out for support. You do not have to go through it alone. There is someone out there who is an expert, and her name is Alison Bladh. So thanks again. Have a great day. God bless.